I described in another video the basic steps for how to configure Android Studio using the Preferences dialog on Mac or the Settings dialog on Windows. They're exactly the same dialog, and you can set all sorts of things about the appearance and behavior of the product. Now, you can actually export all of those settings and then re-import them. So, if you want to move from one computer to another, you don't have to go through the steps of setting everything up again. Here's how you do it. On my development computer, I've set some basic settings, including the size of my font, line numbering, and method separators. Now I'll go to the menu and choose File, Export Settings. Notice you can choose what settings you're exporting. You don't have to take everything, but I'll go ahead and take everything just for convenience. And then I'll create a file on my desktop. The name of the file will be settings.jar. I'll click OK, and I see an indication that the settings have been successfully exported. I'll click the Reveal button, and that opens Finder on Mac, and I see my file settings.jar. Now this is basically an archive file, and you could change the file extension to .zip and explore it manually. But the important thing here is that if you lose your settings or if you move to another computer, it makes it very easy to restore them. So now I'm going to close this project, and then I'll close Android Studio. Then I'll go to my library folder on Mac, and from there to Preferences. If you're on Windows, just go to your home directory. Next, I'll locate the folder for my copy of Android Studio. I'm using a beta of Android Studio, and the Preferences folder is Android Studio Preview 2.0, and I'm just going to delete it. If you're working on Windows, look for the same named folder but with a dot prefix. And again, just delete it. Now, I'll restart Android Studio. I'll go to my Applications folder and double-click to open. And if you're working on Windows, you might be able to go through your Start menu, or if you're using the beta version, you might have to go and reopen the product by double-clicking on the executable. I see that I can import my settings from a previous version, and I see I can import from a custom location, but I'm going to say for this demonstration that I don't have a previous version of Studio on this computer. Now, because Android Studio thinks it's the first time I've launched it, I see the introductory screens, just like I did when I installed it. I'll click through them, and then click Finish, and I get to the Welcome screen. Then I'll open an existing Android Studio project. I'll go to my Android Studio Projects directory and choose My First App and click OK. And that will open up the project. I see the Tip of the Day dialog, just like I did when I first started up Studio. And I'll go to my project window, and I'll drill down to my Java folder, and I'll open up the main activity class, but it looks like I've lost all of my font size and other presentation settings. So now I'll import my settings. I'll choose File, Import Settings. I'll go to my desktop, and in this dialog you can press Command-D on Mac or Control-D on Windows to jump to the desktop directory. I'll select my settings.jar file, and then, when prompted, I'll just click OK to import everything. I'll click OK, and that will restart Android Studio. And now, when Android Studio reopens and displays my Java class, all of my display settings are restored. So that's exporting and importing settings, an easy way to move your copy of Android Studio to a different computer or recover if your settings are lost for any reason.